Hello and welcome to the Daily Fantasy 5 for this Wednesday, July 3rd. This is episode 133, and we, as always, are bringing you the 5 things you need to know every day in the world of fantasy sports. Today, we have a story out of the NFL, baseball story from the Angels, and some more NBA free agency. Just a quick note there. We're also going to be covering the fantasy football tight ends. We're going through tight ends, 11 through 15 today. So we'll be talking about that group of guys a little bit better than the guys we talked about yesterday. I'll do all that after a word from sponsor, www.mathradio.com, where you can pick up an online math course for as little as $9.99 for your child ages 7 through 17 to help them get better grades, score higher on exams, and even get into college. That is mathradio.com. All right. So the NFL, Zeke Elliott met with Roger Goodell yesterday. It seems like, at least according to Jerry Jones, he will not face any kind of sanction or suspension. It doesn't seem like the situation was that dire. I don't think there'll be any kind of suspension at all. Maybe he'll get fined, but yeah, I don't expect him to miss any time. It did make me nervous. I did draft him number 1 overall the other day, and when that news came out that I thought he was clear to that situation already, maybe not. It would make me a little bit nervous if I was drafting this weekend and I had the choice to take Zeke number 1. I probably would not, just because he might miss that first game. And I don't think there's much difference between any of those top 4 guys. I'm talking about Zeke, Saquon Barkley, Kamara, and McCaffrey. So I would take somebody else, probably Saquon if I had that number 1 pick. I might bump Zeke all the way down to 4th until the league actually announces what they plan to do. All right, moving over to baseball. Angels infielder Tommy La Stella has a bruised shin. He's going to undergo a CT scan today. We will let you know tomorrow what the word is on that scan. He's been doing great so far for the Angels this year. He's batting .304 with 16 home runs and 44 RBIs. So that'll hurt to have him out of the lineup for a little while. I would assume it's just a bruise and there's not much wrong with him. They haven't even announced if he's going to go on the IL yet. So we'll keep an eye on that for you. All right, next up. So in the NBA free agency, Kawhi Leonard has not made his decision as of 8:17 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on Wednesday, July 3rd. Boogie Cousins also remains unsigned, but a player who was signed was Willie Cauley-Stein, reportedly going to the Warriors. I like this a lot for the Warriors and Willie Cauley-Stein. He averaged 11.9 points and 8.4 rebounds last year. I think he's going to be great as a backup. He's going to back up Looney at the center position. Maybe they split time and it's not really a backup. Maybe it's more like a timeshare situation where they're both averaging, 30 minutes, 25 to 30 minutes, something like that. Makes a lot of sense to me. I think it could be very valuable as kind of a low-end fantasy center for you to fill out your lineup. Okay, let's go ahead and move off the news now, and we will talk about our fantasy tight ends. We're going to do tight ends 15 to 11. Yesterday we did 16 through 20. So we're going to start off with number 15, TJ Hockenson. He is a Detroit Lions rookie. He was the highest drafted tight end this season. He was picked at number 8 by the Detroit Lions. So Stafford's going to have a lot more options this year. He's going to have Galladay as a deep threat. Galladay can go over the middle a little bit, I guess. But Amendola should be the slot guy, picking up a lot of targets. And this team also acquired Jesse James from the Pittsburgh Steelers last year. I'm sorry, for this year. It'll be James's first year in Pittsburgh. And, he's an incumbent. He's a 4-year player for Pittsburgh. He's been very productive. He certainly doesn't have the upside that Hockenson does. But, Hockenson has to beat him out. He's not just going to step in and be given this job, I wouldn't think. For Hockenson to beat out James as the number 1 tight end in Detroit certainly isn't a guarantee. It's not guaranteed for any rookie, especially against a 4-year guy like Jesse James. So while I like the ability of TJ Hockenson and I was super high on him before the draft, I think I had him as a top 10 guy before he was drafted. I don't love the fit in Detroit, so he's going to land at number 15 for me. But if you're going with 2 tight ends, I don't mind you drafting him at all. Okay, Noah Fant is my number 14. He's the other rookie out of Iowa. He was drafted later in the first round, I think number 20 maybe, to the Denver Broncos. So he is going to be kind of the only weapon for Joe Flacco. So it's a totally different situation than what we saw in Detroit. Flacco loves to throw to his tight ends, and he really doesn't have any other options except for guys like Lindsey coming out of the backfield. I wanted to put him in my top 10. But, man, rookies just have such a vast learning curve that I I just didn't feel comfortable moving him all the way up there, but I just love the fit. I think he's got the talent. If Hawkinson was drafted by Denver, I think he would be in my top 10. I think he has that much talent. But, this learning curve is just going to keep him a little bit back. Let's just temper our expectations a little bit. I put him at 14. Even though I'd like Hawkinson as a player more than Fant, I'm going to put Fant above Hawkinson here. So if you're drafting 2 tight ends, I think Fant is a great guy to go with as a high upside tight end number 2. But I mean, I'm typically only drafting 1, and Noah Fant's not going to be on many of my teams. He is currently being targeted as tight end number 19 on ESPN drafts, so he's mostly going unrated. So if you do want to pick him up, you don't have to spend anything. Just spend your last pick on Noah Fant. All right, next up, number 13, a more reliable player in Kyle Rudolph out of Minnesota. He finished last year as the number 8 fantasy tight end. Not bad at all. This will be year 9 for Kyle Rudolph. He's fairly reliable year in and year out. His last 3 years have been very solid, very productive. The problem with Rudolph, obviously, he doesn't have that high ceiling like either the rookies or some of the other guys we talked about. But I mean, if you're like the last player to pick a tight end in your draft, all right, it's a 12-team draft. You're not planning on taking 2 tight ends. Kyle Rudolph is a good option. He's going to be solid. He's going to be reliable. He'll get something like 600 yards on 60 catches, and about 6 touchdowns, right? So there's nothing flashy about it. But if you're spending your last pick on your starting tight end, Kyle Rudolph is not a bad option to go with. Next up, at number 12, we have David Njoku. Man, so he finished 9th last year. He certainly feels like he's more of a risk-reward kind of guy. He is the tight end in Cleveland, and he's being drafted just outside the top 10 this year. So if you like his upside, you're not going to have to spend too much to get him. So the Browns offense is going to be totally revamped this year. It should be electric. Odell Beckham, Kareem Hunt, all those guys join the team, and they should be absolutely scoring touchdowns all the time. The question is this going to give Njoku more opportunities in the red zone or less? Are they going to have to feed these other mouths, or once they get down there, will they be throwing the ball to David Njoku? So that's the question. What I do like about Njoku is that this will be his 3rd season in the NFL. He's gotten better, from year 1 to year 2. I expect him to make another jump from year 2 to year 3. And this is generally where tight ends make that jump. In year 3, in year 4, in year 5. It takes him a little bit to get used to the NFL. So I think he does have upside. The ceiling is super high on Njoku. It wouldn't surprise me at all if he finished in the top 5. However, there's a lot of risk too. They could just force feed the ball to Odell Beckham and run the ball into the end zone, and Njoku might not see the targets that he did last year. But I still like him. I wouldn't have any problem if you decided to take him as a top 10 fantasy tight end. Okay, moving on. Our last tight end of the day is number 11, Austin Hooper. This is another guy I like. He's in a great situation. He is the tight end in Atlanta for the Falcons. So their offense is obviously going to be dynamic. They have 2 great wide receivers in Atlanta. And Hooper is the clear number 1. He finished as He finished as tight end number 6 last year. So, it's good value with him being drafted outside the top 10 this season. I have him in number 11, just outside of that. The problem with Hooper is he doesn't get targets in the end zone. He only saw 5 targets in the end zone last year, and he doesn't score any touchdowns. In his first 3 years, he had 3, 3, and 4 touchdowns, even though his targets increased from 27 his rookie season to 65 and then 88 last year. So his targets are generally going up, but we have not seen that spike in touchdowns. And if he's going to be a guy that just doesn't see the ball in the end zone, I mean, where's the value going to come from for this tight end? I mean, yeah, I guess he did finish 6th last year with only 4 touchdowns. However, that I think is his ceiling. I don't think he has a chance to finish in the top 5 like some of these other guys do, like Njoku, and even the rookies both have a chance to finish in the top 5. I think Austin Hooper is kind of hard capped around that number 6 number where he got last year, unless he breaks out and has a lot of touchdowns this year, but I doubt it. Okay, everybody, that's it for the Daily Fantasy 5 today. We'll be back tomorrow on the 4th of July to discuss any news. I kind of feel like it would be, in Kawhi's nature to disregard the 4th of July and tell us what team he's going to go to tomorrow. So if anything happens there, we will have the fantasy implications of it here for you on this show. Please visit www.mathradio.com to pick up an online math course for your child ages 7 through 17 for as little as $9.99. If you're listening to the podcast, please give us a 5-star rating and a review on whatever podcatcher you are using. And if you're watching on YouTube, we would love to have a subscription and leave us any comments or questions you have. That would be fantastic. We'll see you tomorrow for the 4th of July. All right, have a good one. Be safe. Bye.